G'day and welcome back to a very warm Bundaberg today. We've got about 30 degrees and the humidity is hot. So for those who aren't familiar with Bundaberg, it's a subtropical area. Think sugarcane. We've got Bundaberg rum, Bundaberg sugar, Bundaberg brewed drinks, a lot of industries. Some relativity, you'd probably look at this time of year as about the same weather as what it is in Hawaii or Florida or Louisiana, and to an extent. If you're in Europe, you're probably heading to these sort of conditions that send you to the south of France or the Mediterranean. But we've got some exciting stuff to talk about today, and I want to get on with it in spite of the conditions. So hang in there with me. We'll have some fun together. Last week we looked at the cost of doing nothing. And for some reason this week my camera has flipped. So the notes behind me are actually back to front. Give me a comment on the video if you know how to actually sort this out for me, because I've had a look at it and I can't work it out. But we looked at the scenario. If you've been looking for a commercial property for 6 months and you haven't made a purchase, you're probably looking at having blown about 18 grand. On the other side, if you're looking at having purchased a business and you haven't done so in 6 months, you could have blown anything up to 50 grand on a $500,000 purchase. As promised, this week we're going to have a look at getting you out of that quagmire of being stuck and not being successful. One of the things that you need to firstly work out is you need to determine if you're doing commercial investment of business and properties as a hobby, as an interest, something that you want to do, or if you're doing it as an investment. If you're doing it as an investment and you haven't bought anything for 6 months, then you've probably done a fair bit of dough. If you're doing it as a hobby, just as an interest, like collecting stamps, it's not an issue. Just be recognising it's the two different mentality, two different mindsets that you need to be aware of. I've got a lot of material to go through today, so I've got a few notes, so bear with me if I keep ducking to the right to have a look at what we've got. We spoke last week about folklore, the fact that people say that if you do nothing, it costs you nothing, and hopefully Cameron is going to do my videos, so maybe here he can put a link of to last week's video, or maybe over to here, or really challenge him and put him over to both sides. But it'll link to the other video if you want to have a look at what the predecessor to this one is. The folklore that I want to have a look at today a little bit is more on the sales side. A lot of sales reps are taught, probably in my mind incorrectly, that you need to ask someone 6 to 8 times to get the sale before they actually say yes. I think if you've got someone saying no 6 or 7 times, then you're probably missing the boat to start with. So it's, would you like to sell? Would you like to buy? What about signing here? Or even the great one, oh, congratulations, here's my handshake before you sign a contract. I've seen all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff. But the side of that for an investor is a lot of people think they've got time. That's right, my sales rep will come back, we can take it easy, there's no rush, there's no hurry. I want to give you a bit of reality check, perhaps, that we are talking about a fast-paced environment when you're buying commercial property or buying a business. My last sale was essentially one phone call, one visit, contract. The one before that was one email, which I answered. They sent back a second email clarifying a few points, went to contract. None of this, your sales rep's going to call you 6 times. If someone is dragging the chain on one of my contracts, that's fine. I'll wait for the next phone call or go chase the next phone call, because it's going to be a lot quicker. There's a good book written years ago. It said that the big fish don't eat the small fish, but the fast fish eat the slow fish. So you don't need to be big in commercial investment to make a profit, make goals, and achieve what you're looking for. But you do need to be fast. And what we're going to focus on today is getting you that speed, so that you're not spending 6 months or 12 months looking for something and getting nowhere with it, but instead you're actually primed and ready to go. Some people will say, "Oh, Peter, I can't rush. This is big decisions. I'm not into making quick actions, quick decisions," and I'm not asking you to. What I'm asking you to do is plan long, act fast. There's a lot of stuff you can do before you make that phone call, make that reach out to the agent or to the prospective person that you want to buy something for. If you have all that organised and then make the approach, you can act fast, and you can do that comfortably because you know you ticked all your boxes before that event. What quite often happens a lot of times is people will make that contact and then start doing all their checklists. Does it satisfy this? Does it satisfy that? What about this? What about that? And by the time they get to point 8, 9 or 10, the sale's gone. The next person's come in, made one email, one phone call, and bang, the contract's gone. So I want to make sure that you're in a position where you've got control of your own destiny to a smaller extent. Let's have a look. The way I want to have a look at it, one reason that people can struggle with getting speed is they're quite often overloaded with information. Now, people process information for one of four different ways. Not exclusively. Usually you've got a predominant way of processing, and you have a look at a couple of others. In a previous life, I was a national trainer for the Australian Taxation Office. So I'm teaching 60,000 pages worth of legislation to my teams, particularly in the areas of GST and excise and superannuation, very complex law. So I needed to fully understand how people assimilate information and make decisions so that they can process and work forward. I'm going to share some of my skills from that period with you now to have a look at those 4 types of learning, so that you can recognize what you are and how you work and what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because I would say of the 4 learning types for buying commercial assets, 1 is pretty successful, and those people generally will get their purchases. 1's a bit mediocre, and the other 2 are probably a little bit dangerous. Dangerous in the way that it'll just make it slow for you. And remember, this video is all about speed. So now's the time when you grab your book of knowledge. For those who are new to my channel, the Book of Knowledge is just a repository for, or is it a depository? Oh, one of those two. It's all right. And you write down the topic of the video. In this case, it's planning for success. Put down 2 or 3 points that you're looking for. Don't take extensive notes. It's just wasting your time. But some thoughts. So I want you to write down the 4 types of learning styles that we've got, and then have a think about which one of those learning styles suits you. So the first style is what's called accommodators. Accommodators are easy to identify. You especially see them at Christmas time. They will go to a box, they'll rip off the wrapping, they'll open up the bag, they'll throw out the internal packaging, they'll have the instructions, they'll put the instructions over there, they'll get the push bike out and they'll put it all together. If it doesn't work, they'll pull it apart, they'll put it back together. So their learning is by doing. Their knowledge is by doing. And if that doesn't work, then they'll go to the instructions. So that's the accommodator. Another learning style is the assimilator. The assimilator would buy a new car, open up the glove box, get the manual, and just go through the manual, the whole manual before doing anything. They'll check the reviews, they'll talk to the sales agent, they'll talk to the mechanic, they'll talk to their friends, and then they'll get the remote control and open up the car. So an assimilator assimilates all the information, processes all the information, and then makes an action. You have convergers. Now, converger would, if we stayed with the car, they would have a look at the body of the car and the colour. Then they'd have a look at the number of doors. Then they'd get into the actual cabin of the car, and they'd look at the dashboard, and then they'd look at the technology hub, and then they'd turn on the technology hub, and they'd look at the stereo system, and then they'd look at the stereo system, they'd select the channels they want, and then they'd take out the channels they don't want. So they basically go from a big picture down to a little picture. On the flip side of convergers, you'll find divergers. Divergers go the other way. So they may open up a bonnet and have a look at the combustion engine. They'll work out how many cylinders are. They'll work out how it interrelates with the other components of the engine. Then they'll look at the engine. Then they'll look at the frame. Then they'll look at the suspension. Then they'll look at the whole body of the car. So that's the 4 types of learning styles you got. So you got accommodators, assimilators, convergers, and divergers. Neither is better than others. Like everything in life, each has its strengths and weaknesses in particular environments. If you're looking at a commercial purchasing environment, accommodators, they tend to be fast in, fast out sometimes. The weakness is, this is exactly what I want, I'll work out the details later. And then the details come in and it collapses. Oh yes, I'll do that, and then I'll go get finance, and then find out they don't have finance, and the deal collapses. A lot of accommodator contracts, if they're not prepared and well supported with a team of people like lawyers and accountants, will collapse. That's the weak point on them, and that may be the aspect. So if you've had a couple of contracts that haven't worked, maybe it's because you're an accommodating style. It's not an issue, but I will give you some tools at the end of this video on how to actually improve your chances of success in that area. Assimilators. A similar is probably the one style that will be a challenge for anyone who's buying property. I see it a fair bit in accountants who want to buy properties. They get so detail orientated. I had a good one, unfortunately, about a month ago. We've gotten the contract. They're definitely in a simulator. They're getting all sorts of information, constantly. Due diligence was a real pain in the butt. They wanted this, they wanted that, they wanted this, they wanted that. Gave it all to them. And in the stage where contract was unconditional, if people tell you unconditional is a settled contract, don't believe them. When it's unconditional, they were at the stage of looking at the wording of the insurance contract that was in place and had been in place for several years, and they didn't like the wording. Well, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get the insurance company to change the wording just for your property sale. And the sale collapsed, and it was really sad. It was a fantastic sale for both the buyer and the seller. They both would benefit from it. But in that instance, the assimilator, their style, which can be a strength in some parts, was a real weakness. What I would suggest if you're an assimilator, have a look at your wish list of 10 points. But if you get 7, tick the box and go for it. If you get 10 out of 10, if you got 10 criteria that you want, the building needs to be pink, the building needs to be here, the building needs to have a return of investment of this amount, the fittings and fixtures need to be within this sort of period. They're fine, but realise that by the time you get one that's got all 10, if you ever find one that's got all 10, there's going to be a whole heap of people punching and fighting for that particular property as well. So you need to be fast in order to secure that property. Convergers, so yeah, if they come through there, look, the example that I just gave with the insurance contract, that's probably a little bit of the converger style as well. Quite often, if you're in a simulator and you're getting the information, one thing that you can do is put that assimilation into the due diligence period of your contract. So that's where you do your checks and balances. Go with your gut feel, do your research, put in an offer, and then start doing your due diligence. If you do your due diligence before the contract, and assimilators tend to do that, it rarely happens. I think in all my time I've probably had 2 assimilators that we've had successful contracts with. So that's an aspect. I mean, what sort of odds are we looking at? Last year I had probably 300 inquiries. And we had 5 sales. Yeah, the figures aren't big, but it's a scale thing that you need to recognise. Some people like to go fishing and get little fish all day and feed. I tend to look for big tuna or marlin, so I quite often come home without the fish, but the days that I do, they're big days and the whole village gets to eat. So of those 5, so really only about 3% of people are going to get the purchase, going to get the contract for the number of inquiries that we have. So another reason why you need to make sure that you're focused on getting it done and getting it quickly. That's probably the main part on learning styles that I wanted to share with you. I'm just also conscious that this video is probably getting close to the mark where I like to finish off. I want to go through a planning tool. So I'll actually probably finish this video here and we'll start the next one straight after this. So I'll just keep a roll on there for you. Have a look at your homework, work out what your learning style is, and then have a look at some of your contracts that you've looked at, some of the properties you've looked at, just the last 2 or 3, and work out how have you processed the information, how have you gotten to the stage of making a decision, get to understand what type of decision you're making, and your style, what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and you're halfway there. And like I said, if half those learning styles aren't quite suitable for going into commercial properties, then half of you are probably already struggling in that area, and if we can change that, that improves the odds of 50% of the viewers. If you like this video, then please subscribe so we can continue to share the message with plenty of others. Send me a comment on there. I'd love to know what you like, what you don't like. Let's share details on learning styles and stories that we've had on it, and we'll catch up with you next Tuesday. Take care and God bless. Bye.